Welcome back to Crafted Nest, where every square inch of your garden holds a potential for beauty, abundance, and creativity. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most misunderstood practices in home gardening, tomato pruning. If you've ever wondered why your tomato plant looks wild, underperforms, or simply refuses to give you that rich, sweet harvest, it may not be your soil, your sun, or your seed. It may be the way you prune. Using real-life, DIY-friendly techniques inspired by both urban growers and seasoned experts, we gathered 20 practical pruning strategies that anyone can follow. Whether you're growing on a balcony, in a backyard, or in a single grow bag. Each idea is told like a quiet morning in the garden, warm, calm, and rooted in lived experience. We're not here to overwhelm you with theory. We're here to show you how to observe, imitate, and gently modify your pruning habits so you can transform your tomatoes from tangled chaos into structured abundance. If you find this guide helpful, let us be your companion for the growing season. Subscribe to Crafted Nest for more real-life garden wisdom, one gentle step at a time. In the heart of a quiet backyard, just as the morning light begins to warm the soil, there's a small act that makes all the difference. Gently lifting the lower leaves of your tomato plants, one by one, and letting them go. It's easy to overlook this quiet ritual of underleaf cleanup. After all, those leaves came first, stretching out eagerly from the stem. But as the plant grows upward with vigor, those same bottom leaves often fall into shadow, pressed damp against the soil, no longer useful. They become tired, yellowing, and sometimes welcome disease. So today, we crouch beside the tomatoes, feet planted, gloves on, shears sterilized, and we observe. The goal is not to reshape the plant with force, but to offer breath and space. A leaf touching the ground, snip, one curling with age and decay, gone, and in its place, a clearing, a soft corridor of air and sunlight that moves gently through the stalks. This is more than pruning, it's healing. With the lower canopy cleared, the soil beneath can dry more quickly after rain. Fungal threats are kept at bay. More than that, the plant's energy refocuses upward, toward green fruit that waits to blush red, toward flowers not yet bloomed. And beneath the cleaned-up stalks, there's room for something new. A few basil seeds, a scatter of lettuce. The garden opens up in layers. It's a moment of transformation that asks nothing more than your time, your care, and your willingness to trust the plant's language. Watch it over the next week. How it stands a little taller. How its fruits begin to swell with quiet confidence. This is a gardener's way. We observe, we mimic, and gently, ever so gently, we modify. There's a rhythm to tomato care that asks us to be both observers and artisans. It doesn't always require tools. Sometimes the best garden work happens with bare hands. Walk into your tomato patch and crouch low, nestled in the crooks between main stems and leaves. Tiny green offshoots begin to appear. These are suckers, ambitious, eager, and determined to grow. But for a plant already focused on fruiting, too many directions can mean scattered energy. That's where the finger pinch method begins. You don't need clippers, just care. Reach in gently and find a tender growth that's no thicker than a matchstick. It gives way with a soft snap. No tearing, no force. The plant hardly notices. but your harvest will. This quiet act does more than tidy up the tomato. It shapes its future. Each sucker left alone has the potential to become a whole new stem, pulling energy away from your fruits. But when you pinch the extras early, you concentrate the plant's strength. You say, focus here, grow strong, ripen well. There's something meditative about it. Moving slowly, examining leaf by leaf. It's an invitation to know each plant intimately, to notice the changes, the scent of the crushed stem, the dew on your fingertips, the tiny hairs catching morning light. And for those of us with limited time or no shears nearby, this method is liberating, quick, gentle, and effective. It lets us step into the garden without fear of overcomplication. The best part? Your fingers remember. Once you've pinched a few, your hands begin to lead the way, like muscle memory guided by instinct. By the end of the row, your tomatoes will stand cleaner, prouder, reaching toward the sun, no longer burdened by what they don't need. In that simplicity lies the secret to abundance. After pruning, your plant becomes more upright, more defined. A single leader or double, each needs its own path skyward. Twine lines hung from overhead beams, soft fabric ties gently cradling the stem, even wire mesh bent into a custom cage. All are fair game. The key is gentle pressure and constant guidance. Spacing becomes important too. Your support should offer breathability, room between stems and stakes. Airflow, now improved by pruning, must be preserved by good design. Disease hides where leaves crowd, so give your tomato light and space. You'll find, as days pass, that the plant adapts. It leans into the ties, follows the stake's angle, stretches toward sunlight, and when the weight of ripening fruit pulls at the branches, your supports hold firm. Quiet guardians beneath the blush of each tomato. A strong support system is an act of faith. You're building for a harvest not yet seen, preparing for weight not yet carried. And in doing so, you give your pruned tomato the strength to reach its full potential, balanced, lifted, and ready to yield everything it was meant to become. Gardening is often about seeing what others miss, and few lessons teach this better than learning to spot a tomato sucker. At first glance, the plant looks like a sea of green, leaves, branches, flowers all tangled together in their eager reach for sun. But in the quiet corners where the leaf stem meets the main stalk, a hidden player begins to grow. It mimics the plant's shape. It even sprouts its own leaves. But it's not the main event. It's a sucker, and knowing how to identify it is a game changer. Picture this. Your tomato central stalk rises tall. A large leaf extends out. Then, tucked right in the elbow between the two, something new begins to push. That's the sucker. It often starts small, almost polite, but left alone, it becomes a whole new branch, complete with its own flowers and fruit. Sometimes that's a gift. Often it's a distraction. The secret is knowing your goal. Want a tall, manageable plant with focused fruiting? Prune the suckers early. Want a bushier plant with more potential fruit in a longer season? Let one or two stay. But it starts with noticing. Run your fingers along the stalk each week. Feel the joints. Observe the angles. Suckers almost always form at a 45-degree angle from the main stem and leaf. As they grow, they look like mini tomato plants themselves, a signal that they're ready to be chosen or pinched away. This practice teaches patience, observation, precision. You're not hacking a plant. You're partnering with it. By spotting suckers early, you shape your tomato's future. Less leaf chaos, more airflow, stronger fruit production. And more than that, you become fluent in the tomato's quiet language. Because a sucker, after all, is just an invitation to guide, to learn, and to grow together. Not all tomatoes speak the same language, and the way we prune must listen carefully to their form of expression. Start with a determinate tomato, compact, focused, and with a mission. It grows to a fixed height, produces fruit nearly all at once, and then quietly winds down. It's a burst of productivity in a short window, perfect for small gardens or those craving a single, abundant harvest. Pruning here is minimal. The goal isn't to shape or stretch, but to support. Remove suckers only below the first flower cluster. Any more than that, and you risk stealing the fruit the plant has already planned to give you. You're not sculpting, you're cleaning up. A snip here, a pinch there, just enough to lift the lower leaves off the soil, protect from disease, and let the sun kiss what matters most. Now shift your gaze to the indeterminate tomato. This is the wild poet of the garden, growing endlessly, flowering all season, producing steadily as long as weather permits. Here, pruning is artful, strategic. You're shaping its journey. You may choose a single stem leader, removing every sucker, or allow one or two suckers to become secondary stems in a double or triple leader formation. It's a conversation. You observe, you respond. The plant keeps growing. You keep guiding. This contrast isn't just technical, it's philosophical. One thrives in structure, the other in rhythm. Both demand attention, but in different tones. Knowing your variety means knowing your role. Are you a quiet caretaker of the finite, or a conductor of the sprawling and wild? Each cut you make or choose not to reflects that understanding. And when the fruits finally come, clustered or climbing, you'll know they ripen under hands that listened. Because pruning is less about control and more about harmony with the plant story. In the quiet corners of the city, balconies, patios, alley gardens, tomatoes stretch upward with silent ambition. In these small spaces, every inch matters, and pruning becomes more than maintenance. It becomes a strategy for survival and abundance. When you grow tomatoes in a limited area, letting them sprawl isn't an option. Each leaf that shades too deeply, every sucker that branches wild, is a missed opportunity for airflow, sunlight, and fruit. That's where smart pruning comes in. Start early. Choose a grow style. Single leader works best for urban settings. Guide the plant up a stake, a trellis, even a string tied to a ceiling beam. Remove the suckers below the first flower cluster. Let just one or two strong stems guide the growth upward like a narrow, fruitful tower. This vertical discipline opens new layers beneath. In that space you clear, once filled with bushy leaves, you can grow basil, arugula, or even nasturtiums. The soil breathes. The sun reaches deeper. The breeze moves freely. Your tomato plant, now light and focused, begins to give. Not all at once, but consistently. a few ripened gems each week, perfect for a salad or sandwich, grown steps from your door. This is small space gardening at its finest. Not about having more land, but making smarter choices. And each choice, each snip, tells your tomato, you're not alone. I'm helping. Over time, this careful attention transforms a tiny patio into a haven. The rustle of green, the flicker of color, the scent of sun-warmed leaves after watering. And in your hand, a homegrown fruit, shaped by care and constraint. Prune smart, grow tall, in the smallest plots, with the gentlest hands. The biggest rewards quietly appear the moment you clear the base of a tomato plant, lifting its skirt of tangled leaves and suckers. Something magical happens. Light touches the soil again. The earth breathes. And suddenly, what was once wasted space becomes a stage for new growth. This is understory gardening, a quiet, elegant method of layering life beneath life. Tomatoes, when pruned thoughtfully, offer more than just fruit. Their tall, open structure becomes a natural canopy, and beneath it, you can invite a symphony of companions. Basil thrives here, its fragrance mingling with tomato leaves. Arugula, with its peppery bite, enjoys the dappled shade. Even shallow-rooted flowers like marigolds or alyssum can find a home, bringing beauty and beneficial insect alike. Start by pruning your tomatoes' lower branches, anything brushing the soil or blocking airflow. As you clear the ground, amend it with compost, break the crust, and sow or transplant your understory friends. Keep spacing in mind, but trust in the shade. The tomato shields its companions from scorching sun and harsh wind. This interplanting not only saves space in small gardens, but it enhances them. The diversity keeps pests guessing. The roots of different plants create a healthier, more dynamic soil web. And you, the gardener, harvest more from a single square foot than you ever thought possible. It's a rhythm of abundance, one plant giving space to another, a tomato rising tall, while greens nestle close to the earth, each playing its part in the choreography of growth. Beneath the tomatoes, a second garden blooms, quieter, lower, but no less important. It's a reminder that every act of pruning is also an invitation. Where we clear, we make room for something new. Every cut we make in the garden leaves a wound, and how we make it matters. Tomatoes, though strong in spirit, are delicate in tissue. When we prune, we ask the plant to heal. But if the blade is careless, if it carries disease from one plant to the next, the wound becomes a danger. In small spaces where gardens bloom in fabric and containers, grow bags offer freedom. They breathe, drain well, and make gardening possible where soil may not. But even in these soft-sided homes, tomatoes still crave the same gentle discipline, pruning. For beginners, the task might feel daunting. Where to start, what to remove. But in truth, pruning in grow bags is one of the kindest ways to learn the rhythm of your plant. Begin by observing. Grow bags often host determinate varieties, short, compact, with a limited window of fruit. Look for the first flower cluster. Then everything below that, that's where pruning starts. Remove any suckers growing between leaf and stem. Pinch them off while they're small. If you wait, They'll demand more from the plant than they give. Next, clear any leaves touching the rim of the grow bag or resting on the soil. These invite disease, especially in humid conditions. If your plant is indeterminate, give it a single stake or string and guide it upward. Use soft ties, fabric, twine, even strips from an old t-shirt to support the growing stem. Prune regularly to maintain its shape and energy. What makes pruning in a grow bag so rewarding is its intimacy. The plant is close, accessible, always in view. Each day, as you water or check for fruit, you'll see changes, new suckers, tired leaves, swelling tomatoes. You'll learn its language, and in that daily care, the tomato responds. It grows stronger, cleaner, more focused. This is beginner gardening at its best, not overwhelming but empowering. With just a few snips each week, you'll shape not just a plant but your confidence. Your grow bag will become more than a container. It will be a proving ground where you learn with soil and shears how to grow something truly your own. In every garden, mistakes are part of the learning. But when it comes to tomatoes, a few wrong cuts can set you back a season. Pruning is an act of intention, but it's also a place where inexperience, haste, or misunderstanding can harm the very plant you're trying to help. And too often, we don't realize the damage until weeks later, when growth stalls or fruit fails to ripen. The most common mistake? Cutting the main stem, thinking it's a sucker, on a busy plant. Suckers and leaders can look alike, especially when they're young. But the main stem is the heart line of your tomato. Mistakenly snipping it can leave the plant flailing for direction, losing critical energy and fruiting points. Another misstep: over pruning too late in the season. While it's tempting to clean aggressively, each leaf is an energy factory. Strip too much, and your plant loses its ability to photosynthesize and feed the fruit it has. Then there's the overeager topping. Topping at the wrong time or too low can halt new flower production entirely. Done right, it concentrates ripening. Done wrong, it ends the plant's future. Finally, there's the tool problem. Dirty shears spread disease. Jagged cuts fester. A dull blade is a silent thief of health. But here's the good news. These mistakes don't define your gardening journey. They shape it by slowing down, observing the plant, and asking yourself before every snip, is this necessary? Is this helpful? You become not just a pruner, but a partner. And the tomatoes, forgiving and resilient, often recover. They'll teach you with every leaf, every cluster, every fruit that forms despite the setback. Because the garden is never about perfection. It's about practice. And pruning, like life, is something we learn with time, tenderness, and humility. When a tomato sucker is gently snipped from a mother plant, it holds within it the silent promise of new life. And then comes a question that every gardener asks. Should it go into water or soil? Both paths lead to roots, but the journey feels different. Place your cutting in a jar of water, and you invite observation. Clear, clean, and easy to watch, the roots emerge like tiny threads reaching toward the future. Within days, a fine web appears. You see growth before you feel it. It's a process that invites wonder. No tools, no soil, just sunlight and patience. But there's a catch. Roots grown in water are soft, fragile, made for that environment. When you transplant, they'll need time to adjust the soil, to harden and hold. The transition is gentle, but it asks for care. Soil, on the other hand, offers a different promise. Tuck the sucker into moist, rich earth, and the roots grow in secret. You won't see them, but you'll feel their strength when the stem stands firm and leaves stretch with confidence. These roots, from the beginning, are made for the real world. No transplant shock, no delay, just rooted readiness. The best method? It depends on your rhythm. If you love to observe, to marvel, to share the magic with others, water is your window. But if you seek strength, speed, and simplicity, soil grounds you from the start. Either way, you've cloned more than a plant. You've repeated possibility, given a snip piece of green a second chance. And in time, that cutting will bear fruit of its own. This is gardening at its most hopeful, a stem in hand, a choice between light and earth, and the quiet joy of knowing that both lead to life. In the art of pruning, not every sucker is the enemy. Some are opportunity in disguise. While most tomato suckers are trimmed to concentrate the plant's energy, there are moments, especially with indeterminate varieties, when keeping one or two can be a game-changing decision. But the choice must be deliberate. It begins with placement. The most productive suckers often emerge just below or beside the first flowering cluster. These are strong, early risers. They had time to root mentally into the plant's rhythm, absorbing light, nutrients, and momentum. When you notice one that looks particularly sturdy, thicker stem, broad leaves, upward angle, it might be worth keeping. This isn't just another branch. It's a potential co-leader, a second path upward. And if your space, support, and climate allow, it can double your harvest without doubling your chaos. The key is restraint. You don't want 5 liters on a tomato. That's a bush begging for confusion. But 2, maybe 3, trained carefully, that's a controlled expansion. Tie them with equal care. Watch how the plant balances its energy. You'll begin to see a rhythm, one cluster here, another up there, fruit forming on both tracks, light filtering through the spaces between. The suckers you choose to keep become an extension of your gardening instinct. You're not just managing growth, you're collaborating with it, not dominating, but guiding. And the ones you let go, no regret. Because pruning is not loss, it's refinement. You shape the plant with purpose. Each chosen sucker becomes a story of trust. In your eye, your patience, and the plant's potential. And when the tomatoes ripen on both stems, you'll know you didn't just prune, you made a choice, and the garden grew richer for it. There comes a point in every tomato's life when it wants to be more than just a vine. It wants to branch out, to climb wide as well as tall, to reach and stretch and sprawl. You, the gardener, must decide, will you tame that desire or embrace it? Multi-stem pruning is where guidance meets generosity. Instead of cutting every sucker, you let 2, maybe 3 grow, choosing carefully and training with intention. This is not letting the plant run wild. It's a structured kind of freedom. Begin by selecting your leaders. Choose those that grow strong and early. Space will allow good airflow and light. Support each with its own stake or line, so no one stem carries all the burden. Space becomes your greatest ally here. Without it, the plant becomes tangled, fruit hides, disease finds home. Prune the rest, not aggressively but steadily. Keep side shoots in check. Maintain visibility and airflow between your chosen stems. Water deeply. Feed well. Your tomato now has multiple mouths to feed, and you've invited that abundance. The beauty of this method is in its balance. You get more fruit spread across more space without sacrificing health. And if one stem falters, broken in a storm or stripped by pests, the others remain. Resilience built right into the structure. Yes, it takes more time, more watching, a bit more care, but what it gives back, clusters of tomatoes hanging like lanterns on all sides, is worth every step. In a world that often praises control, this method whispers another truth. Sometimes more is possible, when tended wisely, when shaped with understanding. Even a tomato's chaos can bloom into order. Let your plant grow, not everywhere, but wider, with you beside it, guiding every branch. The winds shift, the evenings cool, and where your tomatoes once sprawled and bloomed, the season whispers its closing lines. But not all gardens end with fall. In warmer zones, or with a bit of indoor help, you can carry your tomato story through the winter. It begins not with fertilizer or water, but with a strategic cut, pruning for survival. Indeterminate tomatoes, those wild vines that never seem to stop, can be overwintered with care. Start by removing all diseased leaves and weak branches. Cut the plant back hard, down to a few strong stems. No flowers, no fruit, just a structure. Think of it as a reset, not an end. If the plant's in ground, lift it carefully and move it to a container before the first frost. If already potted, bring it indoors, sunny window or grow light ready. Reduce watering. Pause on feeding. You're not asking it to grow, you're asking it to wait. And for a gentler path, take a cutting instead. Snip a healthy sucker. Strip the lower leaves. Set it in water or moist soil indoors. In days, roots will emerge. And from that one piece, an entire plant can begin again. Come spring, it's not a seedling, it's a head start. A piece of summer carried through the cold. The joy of overwintering isn't just in the green, it's in defying the end. In giving your garden's favorite a second chapter. In walking past a window in January and seeing not bare stems, but life, quiet, waiting, alive. This is a gardener's rebellion against the frost. Not a refusal to rest, but a whisper that says, not yet. So prune with vision, protect what remains. And when spring comes again, you'll already be growing, long before the soil is warm, above the city streets, where space is measured in feet, not acres. A tomato stretches toward the sun, steady green and full of promise. Balcony gardens may be small, but with the right pruning, they become mighty. The trick isn't in growing more, it's in growing smarter. On a balcony, airflow is limited, sunlight shifts quickly, and containers can crowd fast. That's where pruning becomes your secret superpower. Start with a compact or determinate variety, one that understands the limits. As your tomato grows, remove the bottom leaves that touch the rim of the pot. This keeps moisture and mold at bay. Then look to the joints between leaves and stems. Suckers will form, quick, eager, and often unnecessary. Pinch them off early with your fingers, before they claim too much energy. Focus on one or two main stems and support them upward against a railing, a bamboo stick, or even a vertical wire strung across your window. Space is precious, and every inch saved below opens up room for basil, chives, or marigolds at the base. The beauty of balcony pruning is that it's intimate. You see the plant daily, sometimes hourly. You watch every change, a new leaf, a flowering bud, a green tomato swelling with time, and the reward, a steady stream of fruit right outside your door. No market lines, no wasted harvests, just tomatoes grown within reach of your morning coffee. Pruning on a balcony is not about taming, it's about tuning, listening, adapting. In a world of noise, this little corner becomes a haven. And as your tomato climbs, shaped by your hands, it brings with it not just flavor, but the quiet triumph of growing something meaningful in a small, sunlit place.